Hello, everybody, back again, and how are you today? Hope you're well. This is my thoughts on the latest Doctor Who story I've watched for Two Doctors. And yes, I do have a copy that contains Inner Fix with Sontarans, and no, I did not watch it. I won't talk about that. Okay, I might talk about that since I'm talking about it now. But either way, I'm here for the main story. So, anyway, for Two Doctors is an interesting story. The behind the scenes stuff is possibly more interesting than the on screen stuff. Basically, for the TV show at least, multi Doctor stories are event television. I know in the comics and audios and books, the Doctor meets another version of the Doctor every other week, and it's, yeah, I'm not gonna lie, the majority of them are good, but because it happens so often, it loses a lot of impact. But on TV, seeing the Doctor meet with a earlier or later, depending on viewpoint, earlier or later version of the Doctor, it's still really good television. It's still something to get really excited about. And when this story was announced, I heard it generated a fair amount of publicity for the show, which is obviously what JNT wanted. And that man knew how to get good publicity for the show. Unfortunately, while the story was airing, there'd be a fair amount of bad publicity, which I shall talk about as well. Basically, it's the first time there's been a multi-Doctor story without it being an anniversary episode, and with the exception of Time Crash and Twice Upon a Time. Actually, yeah, that's like 3 each now. 3 Doctors, 5 Doctors, David Doctor. Yeah, it's 3 each now. 3 anniversary stories, 3 non-anniversary multi-Doctor stories. But basically, it features Patrick Troughton and Fraser Hines, who are great again. Pardon me, as the second Doctor and Jamie. Fantastic to see them. They have very clearly aged, but that's not the issue here. The issue is it starts off in what's supposed to be the second Doctor's TARDIS. It's a very nice black and white shot with a nice throwback to his era, which is really cool. Sorry. Oh wow. Well, so, oh yeah. It starts out as a black and white shot inside the Doctor's TARDIS. Unfortunately, it's very obviously the current TARDIS model with the previous TARDIS console. But as beside the point, it was done in the 1960s for the original TARDIS prop. The original TARDIS console, I think, is long gone by this point. But either way, it's a nice throwback. It is. And we even get a mention of Victoria. Great, she's going to be... Oh, she's done it. She's been dropped off studying something. So the Doctor managed to get her there. Okay, that's fine. He sounds reasonably confident to being able to pick up again, which is different for the black and white era of the show. Seeing that they could never steer the TARDIS. Oh well. It's bye. It's very nice. And we're going to a space station. Oh, okay, that's nice. We're going to a space station for a mission for the Time Lords. The Time Lords. We are on a mission for the Time Lords. The Time Lords that were not introduced until the second Doctor's last episode for War Games Part 10. By the way, if you haven't watched War Games, watch it. It's brilliant. It's my favourite regeneration story. Yeah, this is quite a pickle because this is a huge continuity break. And I know there's this 6B theory that basically, if you're not aware of it, basically between the War Games and Spearhead from Space, the second Doctor did a series of missions for the CIA, Celestial Intervention Authority, not our CIA, and had his memory wiped at the end of said adventures. But if you're going purely by the TV show, it's like, what? When did the second Doctor do missions for Time Lords? It's... What? Yeah, I've read that Robert Holmes basically forgot. He was around for when the third Doctor did missions for Time Lords, and the fourth Doctor, well, he was script editor at the time when the fourth Doctor, and so he just assumed the second Doctor did them as well, or he forgot the when introduced to the end, which is fine. I have no issue with that at all. But considering how continuity and reference heavy this era of the show was, you would have thought that somebody somewhere along the line would have gone, no, Bob, that's not how it happened. But fair's fair. He was then given an extra episode, which he had to drag out the story with, and he wasn't happy about that. And then the original intention was to go to New Orleans. That got dropped because it was too expensive. And so he had to rewrite the script to feature Venice, which then got dropped for the same reasons. And so it went to Seville. So he had to write a script referencing Seville, which is fine. Okay, I get that. He's always stressed enough. Let's not add extra stuff. Oh, you add him with Sontarans. Thanks, JNT. Or as Eric said, one of them wanted Sontarans in the story, so he had to put Sontarans in, and he was clearly displeased by it because he does nothing with them. They are there purely as a background character. They add nothing to the story, and they're disposed of as soon as Robert Holmes can get rid of them. The costumes, frankly, are awful for the Sontarans. I have no issue with them being really tall. Apparently, Robert Holmes got mixed up with that as well. But yeah, I have no issue with them being tall. It's just that the costumes are awful, but still not as bad as the costumes got in Invasion of Time. That's just my opinion. And yeah, after the second Doctor's been captured by the Sontarans, it becomes a Sixth Doctor story. And Colin Baker's great. Again, he has nailed his thing as the Doctor, his role as a Doctor. When he's not in the TARDIS. When he's in the TARDIS, he's a dickhead. Again. And I don't get why. In the TARDIS, he's a knob. You do not want to be around him. But when he's on location, that is a man you would follow through the gates of hell. Yeah, it's an odd one, to be sure. Jamie ends part 1 trying to hump Peri. Nice if you can get it, I suppose. But it doesn't make any sense. Why would he try to hump Peri? Why would he be afraid of Peri? Or whatever. It's just... Nah, I'm not buying it. But it's great when he meets up with the Sixth Doctor and becomes the Sixth Doctor's companion for the story. And they make a really good team. I really like them. It's just a shame we couldn't do more stories with them on TV. I know we have done in audio. But yeah, I quite like the teaming of Jamie, Peri and the Sixth Doctor. Even though Jamie does accept Sixth Doctor being the Doctor a bit too easily. That's another trope of the 80s. It's like, there's a brief explanation of, I'm the Doctor! Okay, fair enough. It's like, what? Yeah, not buying it. You got the Androgons, Shockeye and Chicini. Not buying them as villains, really. Chicini is clearly supposed to be like a Bond era type villainess, and I'm not buying it, to be honest. She's... Yeah, I don't like a character. Shockeye clearly thinks with his stomach, which is fine. I do. I mean, look at the size of me. And the Sixth Doctor ends up killing him quite brutally as well. I know the Doctor has killed before, and he's killed, and he'll kill in the future. As shocking as it is, I know the Doctor only kills as a last resort, and he always seems to regret it, except for when he makes a tasteless quip. Again, after he's killed Shockeye with cyanide, by the way, he suffocates him. It's like, fucking hell, Doctor. He says, tasteless quip of just desserts. It's like, fuck off, man. You just killed someone. He couldn't help who he was. It was his genetics. Fuck's sake, have some decorum, Doctor. You've got Oscar and Anita, who are there purely to pad out for running time. Their story ends in part 2, and yet in part 3, we have a really weird scene where the Second Doctor and Shockeye go for a meal in Oscar's restaurant. By the way, the Second Doctor is part Androgon by this point. And Shockeye ends up stabbing Oscar. Stabbing? Fucking hell. In a restaurant full of people, and the death scene is not sure how it was to be played, whether it's a jokey, comedy, sad, melodramatic, or whatever. And then while you're struggling with that, the extras in the background seem like we've just seen a bar fight. I mean, somebody just died a few yards of runs for him, and we're there for a bit. And then we get back to ordering the food, eating the food, talking casually with mates. There's a couple in the background holding hands. What? This was Last Story directed by Peter Moffat. And I think he clearly had enough show because he puts no effort into the directions at all. For instance, we're in the city of Seville. And if you're in a foreign location, one of the unwritten rules is that you show off the location. And we just get some close-ups of Seville's back streets and public square. And this story was so full of potential. The cast are great. Even if I don't like some of the characters, the cast are great. This story, though, not so much. I'm going to give it 4 out of 10, I reckon. It's not my favourite multi-doctor story. It is full of flaws. Yeah. Shame, really, because it did have potential. There are good bits to the story. The score is phenomenal. And it's a shame we didn't use that score for the Sontarans again in the future series. It is a good score. But yeah, the music score is pretty good. My score for it's not so much. 4 out of 10. And it was during this story, when it was on air, that it was announced that the show is being put on an 18-month hiatus. Simply because Michael Grade had had enough of all the violence and he thought the show had lost its way. And it's not hard to see why. Every story ends with a bloodbath at this point in the show. And the times when the Doctor kills someone or is sort of like semi-responsible for their death, he's making tasteless quips. And in the TARDIS, he's a dickhead. I'm not surprised that Michael Gray just said, no, you know what, enough's enough. You're having 18 months off and come back different. Now, I think BBC wanted the show gone. And I think if there was no reaction to it, they'd have quietly cancelled it. Like we did in 89, when we never officially cancelled it. But obviously they did. And I think that's what we're aiming for here. Because the words hiatus and cancellation were both used. And I think it's just because there was such a fuss by the fan base and JNT and that god-awful Doctor in distress by that cunt Ian Levine. The show come back for Trial of a Time Lord. But yeah, from this point on, the show is fighting for its life. Officially. Now. Officially. And you also have Inifix with Sontarans. Now, I must admit, when I bought this copy, I'd never seen Inifix with Sontarans. I watched it years ago when I first got this one. Pardon me. Jimmy Savile was still alive, still doing stuff for charity, and it wasn't publicly known what such an evil monster that he was and was one of the UK's most prolific paedophiles. It wasn't known then. Later copies of the Two Doctors has Inifix and Sontarans removed, which is absolutely the right choice, in my opinion, the right decision, in my opinion. Because you don't want that monster to appear on DVDs or whatever. And if you haven't watched it, you might be able to find it somewhere online. It's a 5-minute mini episode where Jimmy Savile appears, and it features Janet Fielding and Colin Baker and the two Sontarans. And yeah, it's pretty grim, to be fair, but still, he's dead, he's burning in hell, and I hope that his victims do eventually have some sort of peace. But yeah, Two Doctors, 4 out of 10. Let's say behind the scenes stuff is more interesting. This was Patrick Troughton's last appearance on the show as the Doctor. He died a couple of years after at a Doctor Who convention in Chicago. Yeah, it's just a shame we didn't get more of a second Doctor in this one. Now, imagine this story if the roles were reversed. If it was the 6th Doctor and Peri on a mission for Time Lords. 6th Doctor gets captured, and it's the 2nd Doctor and Jamie who arrive on station after experiencing a weakness in space, and the story kicks off from there. That'd be pretty cool. Yeah, this story had potential. Sadly, due to behind the scenes issues and Robert Holmes clearly getting fed up with those issues, this is not his best story by a long shot. Watch it for the score, for the cast, but not for the story, I'd say. And yeah, that's my review for this one. It's a long one as well, isn't it? 15 minutes. Just over 15 minutes. Nice. Anyway, my next review will be for the universally loved and universally praised Time Lash. See you all soon. Bye.